Well, welcome. This is Ed Poswally, president of Trip Scott, and today we are honored to have the governor of the state of Indiana, Mike Pence. Mike, welcome to South Florida.
Thanks, Ed. Great to be at Trip Scott, and great to be in your fair state.
Well, I appreciate you being here, and so tell us. Many of our viewers may not be familiar, but you've governed from conservative principles as governor of Indiana, and how is that going for your state?
Well, I love to tell people I'm doing my best and Indiana's doing great. We have one of the strongest balance sheets in the country. We've been able to cut taxes every year since I was elected governor in the year 2012. And we've built upon the fact that we became the first right-to-work state in the industrial Midwest to actually repeal the Common Construction Law, Depression-era law that impacted the cost of public construction projects in Indiana. We promoted economic freedom and investment, and we've expanded our commitment to education, innovation, and reform in the state of Indiana, and we've seen real results. Our economy's growing. Unemployment has been cut in half since I was elected governor. We've seen tens of thousands that have moved from welfare to work, and more than 139,000 net new jobs created just in the last 3 years. We today have more Hoosiers going to work than ever before in the history of the state of Indiana, and that's a credit to the people of Indiana, businesses large and small, to the resilience and hard work and character of our people. But I also think it's a tribute to the focus that our state has had on putting common sense, conservative principles into practice in ways that create economic growth and educational opportunity for all of our people.
It's interesting you say the educational opportunity, because that goes hand in hand with economic growth. And Indiana is on the cutting edge of educational reform, and so in offering educational choices, talk to the folks in Florida about the types of educational choices that Indiana offers to K-12 students.
Much as you have here in Florida, that we've made a real commitment to expanding choices for parents in the state of Indiana, particularly disadvantaged families. We have doubled the size of what was already the fastest growing educational voucher program in the country. We, under our administration, actually provided the first public dollars for disadvantaged kids to be able to participate in pre-K education in the state of Indiana. And we've also made certain that our schools work for all of our kids, regardless of where they start in life, but also regardless of where they want to start in life. But also this year, we've put into effect a renewed commitment to career and technical and vocational education.
Tell us what that means.
We not only expanded our funding, some $50 million, for what I call career and vocational education in all of our high schools in the state of Indiana, but we also redesigned the way that we fund it so that now our high schools have a financial incentive to offer courses in areas that are relevant to jobs that are available in that region of Indiana. When it's a high wage, high demand job, the school actually receives more funding per pupil than they would if they simply offered a more generic career and technical course. We're also bonusing schools when a young person graduates from high school and gets a job in an area that they got an industry certification or a concentration. You know, Indiana is the leading manufacturing state in the United States of America by a couple of different ways that you measure that. So I was determined to say, if you believe that all honest work is honorable, then our schools ought to work for all of our kids, whether they're headed off to college, and we want to make sure every child that wants to go to college can go,
right,
or whether they'd like to take one of those good-paying jobs that are available in Indiana today. We want them to be able to get the background and the training and the skills, even in high school, to give them a chance to fill those jobs. One of our initiatives in Indiana is also a workforce effort, and we call it the Regional Cities Initiative. This year, for the first time ever, the state of Indiana is partnering with regions around the state to do regional planning, not just planning as a city or as a county, but to think about ways that they can improve the quality of life, the quality of place in that area of the state, so they can retain and attract the workforce of the future. It's those elements of not only the schools and infrastructure, but all the things that make communities and areas a great place to live and to enjoy that we think are going to be the kind of things that catalyze real growth in Indiana in the future.
Now, Governor, you're in a unique position because not only are you the governor, you previously sat in Congress on behalf of your district from Indiana. And give us some insight as to the difference between being in Congress and actually being the chief executive of your state.
The greatest privilege of my life was to represent my hometown in our nation's capital. I had the chance to do that for 12 years, and through some challenging times in the life of our nation. I was a congressman for 6 months when September 11th happened. I lived through those years, visited soldiers downrange every single year that I was in Congress. And I'll always be proud of the work that I was able to be a part of. But the opportunity to be a chief executive of the state that I love is an extraordinary privilege. But it's also, it is different in kind than what it is to be a legislator. I will tell you that the ability to have impact at the state level through not only legislation like the tax cuts that we've passed, economic freedom, education reform that we've advanced, but also just through administrative decisions that are made day in and day out that can impact people's lives in meaningful and tangible ways, is very humbling to me, and it's deeply meaningful to me. But it also convinces me of one thing, Ed. Having spent 12 years in Washington and 3 years as a governor, I'm absolutely convinced that most of the cure for what ails this country will come more from our nation's state capitals than it ever will from our nation's capital. And the fact that you look around the country and you see more than 30 Republican governors in states that represent the fastest growing, most prosperous states that are making and achieving educational advancement, improving the lives of people, speaks for itself.
Right.
So I know there's a lot of focus this year on the presidential race and the national election, and there should be. But I, for my part, am so grateful to see folks like you and people all around the country who have taken an interest in the last decade in making sure that we have solid Republican leadership like you have here in Florida, like we have in Indiana, that can advance the policies that can really turn this country around.
Well, I appreciate that. And on behalf of all of us at Tripp Scott, we want to both congratulate you and tell you how much we appreciate the leadership from a conservative, principled place that you lead Indiana. We've observed from afar, and obviously we've seen some of it directly, but I wanted to thank you too for your leadership. Thank you.
Good to be with you.
Thank you.